There's a lot of confusion around how to properly grow Venus flytraps, probably more so than any other carnivorous plant. So today I thought I would do a video where I show you the things not to do if you want to keep them alive, but more importantly, the things you should be doing to keep them alive and to keep them thriving for years to come. So when we talk about carnivorous plants, when we talk specifically about Venus flytraps in this video, we're going to talk about the things that people do that tend to be unsuccessful. And the first thing people do is that they buy these plants on a whim, which is totally fine, but then they don't do any of the research about what they need in order to survive. And so when it comes to Venus flytraps, this is no different. They are a very easy to plant to grow. However, they have a very specific conditions in which they need. And so the first thing people do or don't do is their research. And that is why they die so very fast for people. Now, the main common theme that I hear with people is I can't keep them alive. And so, in other words, they're able to keep them going for a week or two and then they die. There's a very specific reason that is happening. One is that they are taking them directly out of wherever they get them, either online or in the store, and then immediately putting them in full sun. That will and has the potential to kill them quickly. A lot of these plants are been growing in different conditions. Some, if you get them in the big box stores, have not been growing in conducive conditions at all for them, and so they haven't gotten sunlight. And just like you, if you were to spend all day every day in low light and then go out immediately into the sun, you are going to get sunburnt, and that is what happens with these. And so wherever you get them, acclimate them to your conditions. Take about 2 weeks and slowly move them to the full sun exposure that they are going to get, and you will be just fine. The next thing people do is they don't understand what kind of water and or soil these plants need. And so what happens is most people just give them the soil and the water that they're used to giving other plants, and the Venus flytrap will be fine for a little bit. And this is where that whole statement of I can't keep them alive comes from. Now, Venus flytraps require an inert soil and an inert water. So they want 50-50 peat and perlite mix. And most people think that they're just normal plants, and so they put them in regular soil. They won't die right away. It takes time for minerals to build up in their soil, and once this happens, all of a sudden, in about a couple of weeks to a month, the plant will quickly decline and fail. People not knowing the fact that they were declining and failing from day one. So the next thing to take into consideration is not just soil, it's the inertness of your water, if you will. A lot of people will immediately start giving Venus flytraps their tap water. Venus flytraps are incredibly sensitive to minerals, specifically copper. And so if you have what's called a high TD or a high parts per million in your water, anything higher than 50, you are going to put them in a position where they have a potential to fail. But again, it won't happen right away. It will take time for minerals to build up. And then all of a sudden, in a couple weeks to 3 weeks to even a month, depending on how high the parts per million is, you'll have a failure and the plant will die. And so a lot of people think, well, I can't keep them alive. Now, the other thing people do is they love these plants to death. They tend to think of these plants as animals, and so because of that, they over care for them, and they are really enamored. Sorry, I got a plane flying over. They're really enamored by the trapping mechanism. And so especially children will want to engage the traps over and over and over again. Well, this is actually a huge detriment to the plant. The plant puts a lot of resources and energy into these traps, and these traps are only good for about 2 closings. And so think about if you have all your energy put into this mechanism, and that mechanism is being triggered by, let's say, somebody's finger, but you're not getting any reward for it, like food, then it is going to eventually weaken the plant and kill it. The other thing people will do is overfeed it. They'll think, well, these things have 10 traps, therefore all 10 traps need food in them. And It is a misconception that Venus flytraps require insects or food to live. They require sunlight, just like any other plant, to live. And so the food comes into play for the energy, like a fertilizer. And so a lot of people think if I don't feed them, they will die. But in the reality is, if you don't give them light, they will die. If you don't feed them, they'll stay scrawny for sure. But you will definitely not kill them. Now, talking about food. A lot of people, again, look at these plants as animals, and they don't understand what the plant really is needing. The plant requires nitrogen specifically, and it gets that nitrogen through insects. It has been developing this over millions of years to get nitrogen from the insect after it gets through its exoskeleton. And if we try to bypass that by giving it something that is not an insect, it really messes with the chemistry of these plants. And so if you're giving it people food, there's a lot of minerals and stuff in there and vitamins that it doesn't need, and it will kill your plant. The other thing is, people say, well, hey, try jelly beans. It's got a sugar, it's a hack, and blah, 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 blah. It's not good. And while you may not notice anything right away, it will eventually kill your plant. Also, people want to fertilize these plants. These plants don't want fertilizer. The bugs are their fertilizer, and so there are certain people that will use fertilizer, but I caution highly against it unless you have been doing this for quite some time. Next on the list of surefire ways to kill your Venus flytrap is to grow them the way that you think they should be grown, and growing them the way that you feel comfortable. They require a very specific care, and they require blistering hot heat and bright sun, 12 to 14 hours. And while that might be hot for you, they love it. And so a lot of people think, well, you know what, I'll grow them on my windowsill, and they don't succeed, or they fail in that, and they think, well, I can't keep these plants alive. These plants, more so, I mean, they're just like any non-carnivorous plant too, but more so still require exacting conditions. It's not difficult to grow them. They just want a specific condition. And so what I always recommend people do is do your research. Understand the conditions that they need and give them the conditions. Now, thankfully, it is very easy to do so for Venus flytraps. It's a little bit more difficult when you're talking about other plants, but in this case, for Venus flytraps, it is very easy to give them that condition in most places in the world. The last thing that I'm going to touch on, and this is probably the most tragic, is that people don't understand that these plants are temperate and require dormancy. And so people think that they've grown them just fine, and then all of a sudden around October, November, the plant fails and dies, when in reality the plant is going dormant. And so it's going to lose all of its tall, long leaves, and depending on how cold it gets or how little the sun is out, the plant could die all the way back, or look like it dies all the way back to the ground. And so people throw them out. And that is absolutely tragic, because these plants are in fact doing what they're supposed to do in a healthy manner, and that is going dormant. Again, the best advice that I could ever give is make sure that you read what these plants need and how they behave in the wild, and then expect that and help to emulate that in your growing conditions.